The citadel bells tolled vespers across King's Landing, their brazen peal washing over rooftops like a tired sigh. Tyrion Lannister stood alone upon the Red Keep's highest terrace, palms resting on warm stone flecked with the last pink of sunset. Below, the city roiled, criers hawking boiled eels, gold cloaks driving wagons through choking dust, the infinite murmur of a populace too weary to fear its rulers. Somewhere in that sprawl, a half-forgotten raven's message awaited him. A single scrap of parchment whose words weighed more than a host in gilded mail. Winterfell is ash. Robb Stark marches south no longer. The boy seeks vengeance north of the neck. Tyrion reread the copied lines until the ink bled into twilight. The news should have sparked triumph. One enemy hamstrung, another distracted. But instead it seeded the coldest notion he had ever entertained. Tywin would scour the riverlands. Cersei would cling to Tommen's fragile crown. Stannis would regroup upon Dragonstone. And the North would bleed alone, surrounded by ironborn and traitor flayers. A crippled wolf might accept an unlikely hand if that hand came shackled in good faith. Send terms, the dwarf thought, tasting the boldness of it. Better still be the terms. By dawn he moved through secret passages carved when Maegor was king and murder was a mason's chisel. Varys padded behind, silk slippers whispering. "You are certain, my lord?" the spider asked, voice softer than dust. "The roads beyond the trident teem with swords that remember Jaime's crimes. Swords do not reason, but their commanders might," Tyrion answered. "Robb Stark has lost his brother's castle and the North's heart. Offer him gold and he'll suspect a trap. Offer him me, the Queen's beloved brother, the Lord of Casterly Rock in waiting, and he must at least hear me speak." He paused near a torch, shadows leaping across his mismatched eyes. "Besides, dear eunuch, if I remain here I will choke on Loras Tyrell's smugness or Cersei's paranoia, whichever fills the throne room first." Varys inclined his plump head. "Then I shall see that ravens precede you, along with assurances of your voluntary bondage. It would not do for the young wolf to think he captures you only to discover he has seized a gift." A laugh escaped Tyrion, dry, small, almost comforting. "And here I thought gifts were treasured, only when they are not ticking." 3 days later, the dwarf rode north beneath a cloak of ochre silk, Bronn at his side, a handful of sellswords straggling behind. Summer's heat still clung to the crownlands, yet Tyrion felt the brush of northern wind even here, as though his choice had changed the air itself. Each league stretched like an unwritten page, and he filled them with silence until Bronn tired of it. "You'll speak your way out of their dungeons, then?" the sellsword asked one evening while they camped near a dry creek. Bronn prodded a rabbit over the coals with a stick far too thin for the weight of his curiosity. "Never met a Stark that listened long once steel was drawn." Tyrion swirled wine in a dented cup. "That is why I ride to them before steel sings, my friend. I intend to arrive still breathing. And if the wolf boy cubes you for dog feed anyway, then you may carry the news south and ask Cersei for a castle," Tyrion said, forcing a grin. "She might even give you Harrenhal, assuming it hasn't collapsed further under its own curse." Bronn's chuckle was low and uncomfortably fond. "I'll take the risk if the pay is right." Night fell. Tyrion found himself awake long after the flames dwindled, counting stars that reminded him of his father's ice-bright eyes. "Tywin will call this treason," he mused. "Let him. He called my birth treason enough." Somewhere deep he felt a tremor, fear or anticipation, he could not tell. At Maidenpool they exchanged their Lannister crimson for plain gray cloaks. Rumor galloped ahead. Renly's shade walking the stormlands, Ironborn prowling every coast, wildfire casks dredged from Blackwater's mud. In every tavern voices broke under the weight of war. Yet when Tyrion dared mention Robb Stark, he heard unexpected things. Whispers of honor unsullied, of an army that paid for grain instead of taking it, of sons writing home that the young wolf fought like the North itself, silent and relentless. These whispers, too, Tyrion tucked away. The Blackfish's outriders arrested them 2 leagues from Riverrun. Spears bristled. Ropes gripped Tyrion's wrists with officious zeal. Yet Ser Brynden Tully only studied his prisoner's face in wan afternoon light, as though searching for a map of motives across its scarred lines. "Winterfell farmers claimed you saved Bran Stark once," the Blackfish said at length. "Is that why you come now?" "I come," Tyrion replied, "because common enemies breed uncommon allies. I come because the North wars on every front and needs time to breathe. I come because the Lannisters need peace more than they admit. And I, Seven help me, may be the only lion left who still remembers the taste of bread broken across a divided table." Bryndon's eyes narrowed, gray as riverstone. Finally, he nodded curtly. "We'll see whether my king finds your palate convincing." "Mind your tongue, imp," Tyrion smiled. "The tongue is all I have ever truly minded." Robb Stark held court in Riverrun's great hall beneath the banners of Tully Trout and Stark Direwolf hung side by side. Torches hissed against damp straw strewn to mask bloodstains from skirmishes fought mere corridors away. Catelyn Stark stood to her son's right, weary but unbowed. To the left, Great Jon Umber loomed with arms crossed like tree trunks. Gray wind prowled behind the dais, eyes pale gold. When Tyrion was shoved before them, he bowed as best a man can with wrists bound. Catelyn's gaze speared him, memories of the Aerie trial etched in every furrow. The Great Jon growled something about gutting the dwarf and feeding him to the fish. Robb raised a hand and the hall quieted. "My lords say you rode here unbidden, yet under no flag of truce." Robb began, voice deeper than Tyrion recalled from Winterfell's hearth. "Why?" "Because ravens are slow and this war is slower," Tyrion answered. "While quills scratch, men die. I have no illusions, your grace. Your captains could kill me now." He met Robb's eyes, bright as new-forged steel. "But if you hear me, you might gain more than my death would bring." "A hostage," Robb said flatly. "A hostage worth Casterly Rock, perhaps?" Tyrion inclined his head. "I come to offer myself not merely as surety, but as architect of a peace your realm sorely needs." Murmurs rose. Catelyn's brow knitted. "The North remembers burnt kin and broken oaths," she said. "Why would we trust a Lannister promise, even from you?" "Because," Tyrion said gently, "you trusted the word of Peter Baelish once, and that nearly cost you more than a castle. Trust me instead. If I fail you, kill me and mount my head above your gates. But if I succeed, if I bring wheat to your burned fields, ships to your harbors, and time for your small folk to mourn, then perhaps a tally of dead can cease growing." A hush swept the hall, thick as smoke. Robb descended the dais, boots thudding on timber until he stood an arm's length away. Gray wind trotted beside him, hackles raised. The wolf sniffed Tyrion's boots, snorted, then patted back. "Unbind him," Robb said. Great Jon barked protest, but Robb's stare cut him short. Ropes fell. Tyrion flexed numb fingers. "You will dine with us tonight," Robb declared. "Tomorrow you will speak your terms before my council. And know this, Lord Tyrion. Here you are guest and prisoner both. Betray either role and I bury you with your own words." Tyrion bowed anew, freer now. "I would expect nothing less from the king in the north." That evening's meal unfolded like a sword dance. Flagons of dark ale were poured but scarcely tasted. Lords of the north watched the dwarf with suspicion. Many of the Riverlands lords with outright rage. Yet Tyrion traded japes with Ser Edmure, praised the crispness of Harrenhal trout, even coaxed a faint smile from Catelyn when he recounted Bran's fascination with saddle harnesses. Through it all Robb listened, carving roast boar methodically, as though each slice weighed the future. Finally the king spoke. "You claim you can win concessions from your father. I claim I know which strings move Lord Tywin's limbs," Tyrion corrected softly, "and which bearskin to wave before his pride, so he charges instead of retreats." Great Jon laughed, slapping the table. And will you wave that skin from Robb's battlements or from the gilded chair at King's Landing?" "From wherever serves us both," Tyrion said. He sipped wine, meeting Umber's mirth with calm. "Imagine, my good lords, a truce that frees your men to return north, rebuild keeps, guard their families from ironborn reavers and Bolton treachery. Imagine your young king not forced to choose which sister to rescue first, nor which village to abandon to starvation, because the lion cub sent from his own pride intervened. Catelyn's cup halted midway to her lips. "You speak of Sansa and Arya," Tyrion replied. "Two girls whom Cersei keeps for leverage yet scarcely values. Lord Tywin despises such tactics. Given the right provocation, he would trade them for his heir." He shrugged. "For all our sins, the Lannisters keep family close." Robb's knuckles whitened around his knife. "Words," he growled, "are wind. I have read your sister's letters. Pretty promises beneath a red seal." "And yet you read mine," Tyrion countered, "because somewhere in your northern heart a frost-hard truth whispers. Wars end either on battlefields or at tables. I prefer the latter." He leaned forward. "Grant me letters of safe conduct to deliver news of Winterfell's plight directly to my father. Allow one of your sworn swords to watch my every step. If I fail to return within 40 days, declare me oathbreaker and hang my name in infamy. But if I return with your sisters and a signed pact, you will have gained what no lance charge could seize." Silence spread like dawn over snowfields. Lords glanced from king to mother to wolf. Tyrion let the quiet breathe, for silence often said what clamor could not. "We dare not dismiss him, yet we fear to believe." Robb rose, chair scraping. "We shall sleep on this." He signaled guards. "Escort Lord Tyrion to chambers befitting a guest, with bars befitting a prisoner." Tyrion dipped a theatrical bow. "I thank your grace for both courtesies." His temporary cell overlooked Riverrun's moonlit godswood. Tyrion lay awake, counting ripples where silver fish broke the surface, imagining each concentric ring as a realm touched by the decision forged tonight. He felt the weight of every murdered child, every screaming widow, pressing on his chest like an anvil. "If I fail, I merely add my skull to the pyre," he thought. "If I succeed, perhaps I temper the fires instead." The door grated open. Catelyn Stark stepped inside, lantern trembling in her hand. "My lady!" Tyrion sat up, bemused. She set lantern on a stool, face part-shadowed. "I once believed you sent cutthroats to murder my boy," she began. "That lie cost lives on both sides. I will not cling to falsehoods again." Her voice lowered. "But Robb is my son. If you harm him with treachery, no castle or coin will shield you. I will see you flayed in Bolton's dungeons myself." Tyrion bowed his head. "If I betray him, I betray myself," he said simply. "I loved my brother. I will not let the next generation of fools kill one another for pride." Catelyn studied him a long moment, blue eyes like still water. At last she turned to leave. Lantern light receded, and Tyrion was alone again, but not unguarded. The past stood watch at every threshold. Morning council assembled in Riverrun's solar. Maps sprawled across a cedar table, colored stones marking hosts and havoc. Ser Brynden, Great John, Roose Bolton's pale-eyed bastard, and Galbart Glover stood ranged like mountains around the young king. Tyrion was given a low stool and no wine. He spoke for an hour, fielding barbs, detailing logistics. Grain wagons rerouted from the Reach under a Tyrell seal, an irony not lost on anyone. Ships out of Lannisport ferrying northern prisoners home. Trade taxes waived at Deepwood Motte for 5 years. He spared no venom for Cersei's vanity, painting her as the one obstacle Tywin himself must overcome. A portrait that made northern lords grin despite themselves. When he fell silent, awaiting judgment, Robb paced the length of the room 3 times, hands clasped behind his back. "Very well," the king said at last. "You leave tomorrow under guard of Ser Brynden and 10 riders. You will bear my seal and a list of terms I will draft tonight. 40 days, Lord Tyrion. No more." Tyrion exhaled through a smile. 40 days, your grace. Or my head." Great John thunked a meaty fist onto the table. "Let's hope the imp values his head more than his jesting tongue." Tyrion grinned wider. "My head is where I keep the tongue, sir. Both are dear to me." Laughter cracked the tension. Rough, surprising, genuine. Even Robb's lips twitched. So the bargain was struck. A single man's life wagered against the tearing claws of war. As Tyrion left the solar, He felt lighter than he had since boyhood rides through Lannisport's windy lanes. Yet weightlessness is cousin to falling. He knew the abyss still yawned beneath. They rode at dawn through gates veiled in river mist. Gray wind trotted beside, escort more than threat, until the last banners of Riverrun dwindled behind groves of willow and red maple. Tyrion glanced back once, imprinting the sight. A fortress where war's tide had momentarily ebbed, where hope flickered like a candle in returning daylight. North and south, he murmured. Two halves of a broken sword. Let's see if I can reforge the steel. Ser Brynden eyed him over a gray gelding's mane. Best pray Tywin remembers which end to wield. Pray? Tyrion chuckled. I prefer to negotiate. Then negotiate with haste, the Blackfish said. The gods grow impatient. Ahead, the road wound into hills soon to be gilded with autumn leaves. 40 days stretched before them, a ledger of chances yet to be tallied. Tyrion set his jaw, feeling both prisoner and envoy, gambler and game. The dice would tumble where the kings could not follow. And somewhere beyond horizon's curve, the fate of wolves and lions awaited the turn. Southward leagues fell beneath hoof and hope alike. At night Tyrion drafted letters by dim campfire, phrasing appeals to Tywin in a calculus of pride. Speak of legacy, of bloodline, of history judging the father by the son's sacrifice. He sealed each scroll with plain wax. No lion sigil, only weight of words. On the 9th day they reached the smoking ruins of a hamlet razed by raiders wearing kraken pins. Charred beams clawed skyward, and the stench of death mixed with sour apples from ruined orchards. Brynden's riders buried what bodies they could. Tyrion knelt beside a small skeleton curled protectively around a wooden doll. Something in him cracked, quiet, jagged. That night he could not sleep. He walked among the horses, stroking muzzles, muttering. Brynden found him at the edge of camp staring north. Still think peace worth chasing? The Blackfish asked. More than ever, Tyrion whispered. Because each mile shows me the cost of distance. At the Trident's fords they met Lannister outriders, scarlet cloaks flashing like signals in afternoon glare. Steel whispered from scabbards until Tyrion thrust himself between lines, shouting names of captains he recognized. Faces he had toasted with in Casterly's halls now gaped at their lord in duncloth travel grime flanked by northern spears. I come of my will, Tyrion proclaimed. Take me to Lord Tywin. Word flew. Within hours a gilded litter arrived, carrying him alone south while Brynden's men followed at cautious distance. Inside the litter Tyrion composed himself, smoothing tunic creases, though his heart rattled like loose coins in a goblet. Casterly Rock's shadow greeted him on the 32nd day, towering ramparts he had once roamed unwelcomed. Torches blazed along battlements as if heralding some grim pageant. When he was ushered into the Hall of the 100 Hearths, Tywin Lannister sat enthroned beneath looming lion banners, face unmoved. Release him, the Lord of the Rock ordered. Chains fell away. Tyrion inclined his head just so. Father! Tywin's gaze swept the assembled court, daring interruption. None came. I trust, he said, voice glacial. You have reason for deserting your post and delivering yourself into enemy hands. Tyrion drew breath. I have a proposal. Proposals are for merchants. You are my son. Speak as heir or stand as traitor. The hall vibrated with that word. Tyrion felt Brynden's warning echo. Steel or table. He met his father's eyes, mirrors of his own but merciless. I stand, Tyrion said, as the key to ending the bloodshed between North and Rock. I stand offering alliance through hostageship, my own, and the return of Ned Stark's daughters, whom our dear queen holds unlawfully. I stand to preserve the wealth and name you built, before war flattens every golden tower into the mud. A collective intake of breath. Tywin's features remained carved granite. You presume to barter Lannister assets without leave. I presume to value Lannister lives above stone, Tyrion replied. Robb Stark bleeds the Riverlands, but his wolves grow gaunt. Offer them respite, grain, and prisoners, and we secure our flank to face the true threat, Baratheon ambitions and Tyrell intrigues. Tywin's eyelid twitched, anger or interest. You assume the Northerners can be trusted. No, Tyrion said. I assume they can be bargained with. Trust is for the Septon's sermons. Terms are for lions. Silence pooled like oil. Lords shuffled, whispers fluttering. At last Tywin rose, red brocade catching hearthfire. You will put this argument to parchment, he decreed. With details of exchange, tribute, and guarantees. You will remain within these walls under guard. Treated as blood, watched as suspect. When your queen of a sister arrives from the capital, we shall discuss the girls. A flicker of hope lit Tyrion's chest. Thank you, father. Tywin stepped close, so only Tyrion heard next words. If this fails, you will wish Robb Stark had taken your head. I will show you how Lannisters punish folly. Tyrion swallowed. Understood. Yet as his father strode away, cloaked in lion red and menace, Tyrion felt a quiet triumph bloom. One will had begun to turn. 40 days were not yet spent. Beyond arrow-slitted windows, the sea crashed against gold-veined cliffs, endless and patient. Like time itself, Tyrion mused. And time, if given shape, can temper even steel forged in vengeance. He turned toward the scribes assembling quills and ink, toward letters that might stitch a realm. The wording would be everything, but words were his armor and his blade. So he began, and somewhere far off, a dire wolf howled, lonely, hopeful, waiting. Tywin summoned the dawn to his council chamber, for at Casterly Rock the sun did not dare linger behind the horizon once the Lord of the West commanded its rise. Tyrion arrived escorted by a brace of gold cloaks, who eyed him as though the weight of his father's displeasure might slide onto their spears at any moment. Long windows flooded the hall with chill ocean light that glittered across gilt lions worked into every pillar. Kevan Lannister was already present, beard newly streaked with silver. Beside him stood Ser Adam Marbrand and Maester Crelin, each clutching copies of the treaty draft Tyrion had scratched out through the night. The parchments smelled of fresh ink and the faint, acrid tang of candle smoke, small ghosts of sleepless labor. Tywin did not glance at them. He regarded his son instead, measuring how much night's toil had hunched the dwarf's shoulders and drained the mockery from his stare. Tyrion offered no quip. He bowed, once precisely, like a craftsman presenting a blade whose edge he had whetted with his own flesh. Tywin spoke without preamble. You propose ships of grain from Old Town to White Harbor, remission of northern tariffs, and return of the Stark daughters. One confirmed living, one presumed. Here the Lord of the Rock let the word dangle, as though absence itself were a misdemeanor. In exchange for a cessation of hostilities, recognition of Tommen Baratheon's crown, and a promise that the North hold the trident only until the realm reconciles. You believe the young wolf will yield the riverlands once the blood dries. Tyrion folded his hands at the small of his back. I believe Robb Stark's grief is frost. Hard, brittle, inevitable. Grief shatters if struck by something warmer than hate. He would trade a river for his sister's freedom and 2 winters of quiet planting. And you, father, would trade a river you do not own for an end to a war you cannot win on every front at once. Kevan cleared his throat. Casterly Rock does not concede lightly, Tyrion. The river lords still raid our foragers. Ser Gregor is gathering fresh levies.
Ser Gregor gathers corpses, uncle.
Tyrion's voice cut like a thin saw through goldwood. Every village the mountain burns drives another 100 spears into Stark service. Even a lion tires of bleeding. Adam Marbrand, hair the color of autumn rust, tapped the parchment. Word from King's Landing says Stannis will winter at Dragonstone building new galleys. When he sails again, he will command twice the hulls that burned at Blackwater. The Tyrells press us for gold and grain, and the Reach begins to wonder why their coffers fill our coffers. If the North bends, we may face the storm alone but no longer surrounded. Tywin's eyes flicked to each man, emerald daggers judging the weight of every syllable. The Lady Arya is missing still. Your sister claims the rebels stole her. My sister, Tyrion replied, conflates possession with providence. The girl escaped in chaos, but rumor places her alive on the King's Road months past. Deliver Sansa as proof of good faith, and the North will scour snow and stone to find Arya. A blood debt paid in part still obliges payment in full. Tywin's jaw flexed, and Jaime, the name thudded onto the council table heavier than any warhammer. Tyrion forced himself to draw breath through his nose lest words gallop uncontrolled. Jaime remains ransom and bargaining chip. Robb Stark will not yield him for trinkets. Yet a ceasefire grants us time to send envoys with tempered terms instead of siege engines. If the North's stomach turns from grief to hunger, even dire wolves learn to barter. A heartbeat passed, then another. The sea crashed far below in its eternal applause for cliffs unmoved by men. Tywin lifted a gauntlet hand. Crelin shuffled forward, unfurling a fresh scroll. Tyrion watched quills scratch amendments in Tywin's uncompromising script. Obligations of neutrality for Houses Glover and Manderly. Safe harbor rights for Lannisport merchants at White Harbor. Mutual extradition of poachers across the Green Fork. Each clause tightened like links of a fresh-forged chain. Tyrion's heart ticked with reluctant admiration. The old lion turned concessions into conditions, wariness into leverage. If Robb accepted, he would bind himself into Tywin's calculus before he ever realized the math. When the draft lay glistening, Tywin sealed it with red wax bearing the lion rampant. You will lay these terms before the rebel king. 40 days from your departure we meet again, in Riverrun if need be. Fail me and the rock shall remember you as it does all echoes, briefly and drowned by stronger sound. Tyrion bowed. Wisdom, father, rarely finds voice before it finds risk. I go to fetch both. He turned, but Tywin's final command pinned him mid-stride. You will not ride with Brynden Tully alone. I dispatch Ser Kevin to accompany you, and to remind you that while a lion may parley, it will not be collared. Word of the council's resolve traveled faster than ravens upon Queen Cersei's return to the Rock. She arrived trailing a retinue of Tyrell knights whose sunburst cloaks clashed garishly against the crag's basalt gloom. The queen strode through the courtyard with roses woven into her hair as though winter itself must bloom at her whim. When she barged into the Solar, demanding explanation for talk of hostages and returned daughters, she found Tyrion already lacing a travel doublet of plain charcoal wool. The sight of him in modest garb, a silhouette that might pass for any merchant's son, struck her like vinegar across honeyed wine. You dress to grovel before wolves, she hissed. Tell me at least the fleas appreciate the sacrifice. Fleas seldom dine on dwarfs, Tyrion replied without looking up. Too little flesh. I leave them to gorge on puff adders swollen with their own venom. Her hand flashed, but he caught her wrist with surprising gentleness. Green met mismatched green and black. Beneath each gaze flared embers fanned by years of shared disappointments. Tyrion's grasp loosened, fingers brushing away as though the air itself were fragile china. I am forging peace, he said. So Tommen may reign over a realm, not rubble. So Jaime may come home. So your son's children will not remember their grandmother as the harpy who burned the north for want of a single hostage. Cersei's breath trembled between parted lips. Hate warred with a flicker of something older. Fear, perhaps, of nights spent listening to wildfire crackle beneath the city they held. She withdrew her arms slowly, smoothing her sleeve. If you fail, little brother, I will feed you to Ser Island before the court and smile while Tommen watches. If I fail, Tyrion said softly, there will be no court left to watch. She left trailing rose-petal perfume that could not mask the scent of desperation clinging to every inch of the crown she carried south. Sansa Stark stood on a balcony of Maegor's Holdfast as twilight bruised the sky above King's Landing. From here the city resembled an overturned anthill, endless tunnels of panic beneath a crust too fragile to bear footsteps. Below, bakers stretched dough for tomorrow's festival bread honoring the Maiden's Day, yet hunger made the air taste of ashes. Beside her loomed Ser Osmond Kettleblack, tasked with guarding a hostage whose value he scarcely understood. Sansa listened for whispers of news but heard only gulls. When Queen Cersei returned, the Red Keep gates rattled like a drum of war. Sansa stole glimpses from corridors. Cersei passed in rage, skirts swirling, knights scurrying. Hours later Pycelle fetched Sansa to the Queen's Solar, where scrolls lay strewn like shed skin. Cersei fingered a wax seal stamped with a wolf's head. "Your kin bargained for you?" the Queen purred, words brittle as spun glass. "My dear brother thinks peace is bought with daughters." She lifted a goblet, tilting its reflection across Sansa's face. "Tell me, little dove, if you could choose between your mother's arms and the Iron Throne's shadow, which feels safer?" Sansa swallowed. "I wish only for home, your grace." "And what is home?" Cersei mused aloud. "A keep of broken stones? A sept for ghosts? My father would trade keeps and ghosts alike if it preserved his name." She offered Sansa the goblet. The girl declined. Cersei smiled thinly. "Wise. Let us see whether your father's whelp proves as wise when gold is weighed against grudges." She dismissed Sansa with a wave. From the anteroom walls, tapestries of Rhaenys and Visenya burning Harrenhal fluttered in a draught. Sansa's footsteps echoed like stolen prayers. Somewhere deep she imagined Arya still alive, blade in hand, carving her own escape through fate's throat. If Arya could be free, so might Sansa. If Tyrion's gamble bought passage north, perhaps sunlight still warmed Winterfell's snow. At Riverrun the Raven carrying Tywin's sealed terms arrived in the hush before dawn, when river mist clung like worries to every parapet. Robb Stark read the scroll once, then again, knuckles paling as he held the parchment. Catelyn stood close, smelling parchment wax and the memory of Sansa's hair. Grey wind prowled restless. By sunrise, Robb convened his captains. Great John slammed a fist on the map table hard enough to topple pewter trees. "Lannister trickery. They'd offer us the trident and then flood it with gold to drown us. Nay, my king. Let me march and put Harrenhal to the torch. Send Tywin the message we understand only steel." Roose Bolton's quiet voice slithered between churning tempers. "Steel rusts, Lord Umber. Gold buys polish. Consider that with a season of peace the North regrows men quicker than the Westerlands. Wolves breed faster than lions." Ser Brynden, fresh returned, described Tywin's gravity, the sharpened respect he showed for Tyrion's plan. "There is sincerity in Tywin's caution. He bleeds on 3 fronts. If he binds himself to this pact by returning your sisters, he forfeits the leverage that kept him ruthless." Robb pressed thumb and forefinger into his eyes as though holding back winter itself. "If I sign," he murmured, "I give up the crown our bannermen died for." "Or you trade a crown for a kingdom," Catelyn said, "and perhaps for your sisters' lives." Silence followed, broken only when Galbart Glover whispered, "We lost Winterfell once through pride. Let us not lose the North entire for the same." Robb's gaze lifted to the antlered helm of his dead friend Renly hanging above the hearth, a grim trophy granted by the Stormland lords who bent the knee after their king's mysterious death. Robb's shoulders seemed to carry that iron as well, every false victory an added weight. At length he straightened. "I will meet my lord grandfather's envoy on the field between the fords. We trade hostages, my great-uncle for my sisters. We open the roads for grain. The Riverlands shall have a season to bury their dead. But I do not bend the knee. Let Tywin call it truce, not submission." Great John barked admiration. Bolton merely inclined his head, eyes hooded like blades sheathed in satin. Catelyn exhaled. Robb dipped a quill, signing with strokes sharp as northern pines. When the wax cooled under Grey Wind's watchful eyes, peace became more than a whispered wish. It became a scheme of ink, a fragile raft upon red rivers. On the 14th dawn after Tyrion's departure from Casterly Rock, the envoy crossed the Tumblestone Ford. Kevan rode at Tyrion's right, standard-bearers hefting twin banners, a lion rampant on crimson and a direwolf on slate. Sewn hastily under Tywin's orders, half symbol, half challenge. Behind them trundled wagons stacked with burlap sacks stamped with the golden rose of the Reach, already heavy with grain. A gesture, yet substantial enough to hush starving small folk along the route. The people watched 2 armies' colors flutter side by side and blinked, as though the world had tilted. Ser Brynden awaited in half armor, guarding a litter. Within lay Lady Sansa, pale but unbowed. Tyrion dismounted first, bowing. Sansa dared a small curtsy that trembled yet did not break. At sight of her Uncle Kevin's face softened. Memory of his own daughters glimmered in the creases beside his eyes. They exchanged hostages solemnly. Ser Brynden climbed aboard the Lannister wagon, bound neither by rope nor chain but by honor. Tyrion offered Sansa a steadying hand as she stepped to the northern side. Great Jon Umber greeted her with a cloak lined in bear fur despite summer's linger, symbol of brotherly protection her own kin could not yet provide. Sansa's gaze darted beyond him as if seeking a ghost. Tyrion read the ache. Arya still lost. He knelt, speaking softly that promise had been made to search every holdfast for her shadow. Sansa's nod carried the weight of kingdoms. Campfires that night burned at careful distance. Lions on one hill, wolves on another, the ford between a black ribbon reflecting stars. Yet harp strings drifted from the Stark fires, music of river lords mourning and mending. From the Lannister side came laughter not sharpened into jeers. Tyrion watched sparks ascend into dusk, thinking how easily embers looked alike regardless of whose hearth they leapt from. Kevan approached, folding a cloak around his shoulders. "The girl reminds me of your mother," he murmured. "Quiet strength." "My mother never saw peace come to pass," Tyrion replied. "Perhaps her granddaughter will." They shared wine that tasted of stone fruits and distant summers. For once words rested. At King's Landing, a raven's arrival shattered Cersei's composure more than wildfire ever had. The letter, penned in Robb Stark's firm hand, confirmed safe exchange of Sansa for Ser Brynden and detailed preparations for Arya's search. It demanded the Queen dispatch Sansa north within 5 days' sail, escorted by 2 of her choosing. Failure would break the truce before ink truly dried. Cersei threw the letter into the hearth. Flames devoured joylessly, yet even as words blackened, their meaning ignited corridors. Hostages freed, roads opened, small folk gossiping that the Queen's cruelty had bent before dwarf diplomacy. Lords of the court whispered of Tywin outmaneuvering his daughter. The Tyrells, sensing opportunity, pressed the Queen Regent for progress on wedding alliances and grain shipments to the north in exchange for trade privileges. Cersei felt power slip between her fingers like river sand. In the black belly of the Red Keep, Qyburn examined fresh parchments of his own, battlefield reports of Sellsword companies massing in lists under Stannis' coin. War had not ended, only changed shape. Qyburn brought the news to Cersei at dusk, where he found her staring at the Iron Throne as if it might speak answers. She listened, then whispered, "If the North turns south again, we will not hold." Her reflection in melted steel seemed that of a stranger, one who had traded certainty for suspicion. Tyrion reached Riverrun ahead of schedule, grain wagons intact. Sansa handed into her mother's arms beneath weeping willows that wept truly that day for joy. The reunion left half the host in tears. Even Great Jon Umber dabbed eyes and swore any man mocking him would swallow his fist for supper. Tyrion stood respectfully apart, ache twisting deeper than any blade. He could save other mothers' daughters, never his own. That evening Robb toasted the dwarf before bannermen and small folk alike. "A lion ventured into our den and left teeth behind, so direwolves need not bear theirs. Let all men here witness that honor may yet grow in soil soaked by war." The cheer that answered smelled of hope more than ale. Yet amid revelry Roose Bolton's bastard approached Tyrion with a smile thin as moonlight on glass. "Our king's mercy gladdens me," he murmured. "But mercy is coin easily counterfeit. Pray your father's purse holds true metal, else wolf and lion shall feast upon each other anew, and crows upon what remains." Tyrion raised a brow. If crows feast, they often choke on the bones. He left the bastard smiling behind him, unsure who now stalked prey. Robb convened council 3 nights later to weigh the next phase, assembling an escort to bear Ser Brynden south in pledge while delivering grain to Winterfell's survivors. Tyrion proposed a joint column, equal numbers from both houses. Catelyn agreed. Bolton objected, citing chance to spy upon northern defenses. Arguments bloomed like midwinter roses, beautiful only to those who wore gauntlets. Amid the debate, Maester Vyman burst with a raven. Word from Deepwood Mott that Ironborn captain's quarrel. Balon Greyjoy's health failing after a fall from a rope bridge in Storm's Dark. The North smelled weakness on salt air. Many urged sending ships west while Lannisport's galleys stood ready. Tyrion, sensing risk, proposed a clandestine envoy instead. If the Greyjoys fractured, allies could be bought among Balon's lesser heirs. Galbart Glover volunteered. Robb, eyes heavy with choice, postponed judgment until dawn. Outside, Riverrun's moon mirrored on black water. Tyrion walked ramparts with Sansa, both adrift in possibilities. She spoke of Winterfell's godswood, how the heart tree's face would greet returning children with tears carved in sap. Tyrion listened, and for a moment imagined Edmure's riverbanks blossoming with weirwoods and lion banners twined. He vowed to plant one such tree at Casterly Rock should peace endure, though rock would fight root. Far to south lightning forked beyond horizon like a quill writing fire upon sky. Storm's warning. Tyrion wondered which of his father's messengers rode beneath. At Casterly Rock, Tywin received new intelligence. Euron Greyjoy had returned to Pike with a fleet of shadow-painted ships and murder in his eye. The Kraken's stirred waters. Tywin intended calm. Worse, ravens from King's Landing spoke of Stannis forging alliance with Lysine bankers and Myrish sell-sales. War mutated. Every limb severed sprouted too fresh. Tywin sat alone in his solar, lit only by a single candle, reading report after report until dawn paled the flame. He realized then that his youngest son's gamble offered not luxury but necessity. The realm required triage, not triumph. Pride belonged to peacetime. He penned orders. Ser Kevan to remain with Robb Stark as royal hostage for 9 moons. Gold shipments rerouted to subsidize grain for the north. Emissaries dispatched to Old Town to court the Hightower's fleet for western defense. Each decree bled authority but also purchased time. Tywin sealed them, poured wine, and for the first time in memory toasted an absent child's audacity. Yet not all children reaped reward. In the dark forests between Harrenhal and Maidenpool, a hooded figure knelt beside a campfire's dying embers, cupping hands around flame. Arya Stark, skin grime-streaked, eyes bright as new stars, whispered a list of names into sparks. She had heard rumors. Sister freed, mother near, allies forging peace. But men still hunted girls worth ransoms. Arya traced the lines on Needle's slender blade and decided peace was luxury to be bought by daggers in dark. She turned her path northward, a ghost with wolf's blood, vowing to reach Riverrun before lions or traitors could claim more. Winter's first raven arrived earlier than omens foretold. Snow dusted the neck. White shrouds crept down the bar rollins. The fragile truce would soon face tests harsher than spear or scheme. Grain must move before rivers froze. Ships sail before storms penned them. Tyrion stood upon Riverrun's battlements at dawn, feeling north wind bite. Around him men loaded wagons, hammered iron hoops, sharpened scythes repurposed as blades. Peace demanded a different armory. Patience, vigilance, honor. Tools he trusted less than swords, yet tools he must wield. Robb joined him, gray cloak billowing. "My father used to watch dawn rise over quiet hills," the king said. "He said light reveals more than darkness hides." Tyrion grinned sideways. "Light also blinds if stared at too long. Best to blink, my king, and keep your wits." Robb laughed, surprising both. "We ride at sunrise tomorrow. You and I will share the vanguard." He extended a gauntlet hand. Tyrion clasped it, lion's paw meeting wolf's. Below, the tumblestone glittered like a blade lying edge up. Tomorrow they would tread that edge together, balancing history on its spine. Behind them banners stirred. Red lion, gray wolf, trout of Tully, all flapping to the same wind, if not yet the same rhythm. Somewhere to the east, Tywin Lannister readied fleets. To the south, Stannis plotted tides. To the west, Kraken's unfurled black sails. But at this heart of strife 2 foes had dared weave threads of accord. Tyrion closed his eyes, letting wind roar in his ears like applause or warning. He whispered a silent prayer. not to the 7 who never listened, nor to old gods who knew him not, but to every nameless peasant who would live to till spring if 20 lords held their tempers. In that moment he felt astonishingly small and profoundly necessary. When he opened his eyes, dawn painted the world in tones of brass and promise. The first true day of peace had begun, tenuous as frost on steel, yet glinting all the same. And Tyrion Lannister, gambler of kingdoms, breathed it deep and prepared to stake the rest of his life on keeping the gleam alive. The last of summer's warmth faded from the Tumblestone Valley as banners of lion and wolf shared the wind, braided together on an improvised lance thrust into the riverbank. Tyrion watched carp flash beneath the shallows, silver scales catching wan sunlight before vanishing back into murk. He savored those ripples. They were proof that something still moved freely in a realm of bridled men. The truce had lived 3 days, a newborn calf barely able to stand, and already rumblings threatened to trample it. Reports from the Shield Islands warned of black-hulled ships spied against the horizon, and ravens from the fingers told of sail sails massing in secret coves. Their sails dyed a royal stag blue. Every message felt like the sky clearing its throat before thunder. Robb Stark sensed it too. On the evening after exchange of hostages, he called a march. Grain wagons creaked behind files of Northmen and rivermen as the king's host struck east, escorting Sansa to White Harbor before winter's teeth bit the neck. Tyrion rode near the vanguard, flanked by Brynden Blackfish, freshly freed yet obstinate as ever, and Kevan Lannister, whose presence ensured lions would claim credit should the experiment succeed. Beside them trotted Grey Wind, matching the column's pace with effortless lope, eyes always forward as though tracking prey invisible to men. Sansa sat a few horse lengths behind Tyrion. Cloaked in marten fur, Catelyn had sewn herself during the sleepless night following her daughter's return. The girl spoke little, but Tyrion noticed how her gaze clung to every byway and cottage, as if storing threads to weave into memories of home she would tell Arya someday. He marveled at the poise that allowed a teenager to ride at the center of an army that had once sworn her father's death must be avenged. Wolves were unforgiving, yet they sheltered pups with ferocity unmatched by any pride of lions. The first test of the truce arrived on the 4th morning when outriders discovered a detachment of Frey spearmen blocking the stone causeway at Fairmarket. They wore the twins' twin towers on their shields and terror in their eyes. Rumor had reached them that Robb Stark meant to burn the Riverlands traitors next. Their captain, Walder Rivers, demanded toll for passage, citing Lord Walder's charter from King Joffrey, now King Tommen by legal fiction. Kevan muttered oaths. Great John wanted to trample through. Roose Bolton smiled thinly and advised parley. Tyrion asked leave to handle it. Robb consented after a quick conference. Tyrion rode forward with Kevan and Ser Brynden, leaving the column behind the bend. He carried no banner, only a sextet of guards wearing no heraldry. At the barricade, timbers spiked and bristling with pikes, Walder Rivers met them astride a rouncy too high for his skinny build. He recognized the dwarf at once, sagging with visible relief that he faced negotiation rather than charge. "Lord Tyrion," Walder said, tugging scraggly beard, "my grandfather's orders are clear. No force larger than 200 passes the causeway without oath of obedience to his grace and Lord of the Crossing. It ain't personal." Tyrion produced a parchment embossed with his father's seal and Robb's direwolf sigil. "Here is oath enough," he said. "Within, Lord Walder is offered quartered northern wool for his garrison's winter and remission of all tolls for Frey merchants shipping grain downriver. All he need do is return the oath of fealty to King Tommen and signed for 1 year. He may frame it if he likes. Fine vellum and bright ink, but no seal, no bend of the knee, for a single year, during which he may consider which king actually feeds his people." Walder Rivers licked cracked lips. He had fought enough to know grain outweighed pride when snow fell. 1 year only? 1 year, Tyrion confirmed. Then he may bend to whichever crown best gilds his coffers, or to both if it pleases him. Despite rumor, wolves and lions welcome weddings. Brynden snorted. Kevan grimaced, but did not contradict. Walder Rivers glanced between them, weighing opportunities. At last he sighed, signaled his men to pull back the barricade. As Tyrion turned his horse, the Fry called after him. "Tell King Robb the twins have wide halls. Peace banquets serve twice as many guests as war wakes." Tyrion saluted with 2 fingers. All feasts began with plates and ended with politics. Keeping them distinct was impossible, but sometimes the confusion benefited the living. The host crossed Fairmarket without blood. When Brynden praised the imp's guile, Tyrion shrugged. "I have no gift for prophecy. I simply count coin faster than most lords count grudges." 2 days later, rain set in. Harsh autumn squalls that flattened campfires and turned the King's Road north of the Trident into a ribbon of sucking mud. Progress slowed to a crawl. Wagons bogged axle-deep. Horses lathered under harness. Men cursed until their voices cracked. Gray wind ranged ahead, tail low, ears twitching to some distant sound. At dusk, Robb convened captains beneath a canvas lean-to spattered with droplets. Great John argued to push on by torchlight. Galbart Glover urged halting until dawn. Bolton suggested splitting the host, Grain and Sansa to press forward with an elite guard, while bulk of infantry diverted west to seize Seaguard's port and thus threaten any ironborn sorties. The debate churned until Tyrion asked the simplest question. "Has anyone scouted the Weeping Water for fords safe enough for wagons?" None had. The column camped where it stood, and in the early hours Bolton left with 200 Dreadfort spears, claiming to survey river crossings for the morrow. Tyrion slept little that night. The patter of rain on canvas mimicked footfalls circling his mind. He rose before dawn, seeking privy trenches, but found Sansa standing alone near the wagon containing Ned Stark's reclaimed sword ice. Still broken, each shard wrapped in oiled linen. She traced the crate's grain with fingertips. "Sometimes I think I hear Father's voice," she whispered, not seeing him approach. "He says patience is honor's ally, but patience feels like standing still while the world gallops past." Tyrion kept distance respectful. "Your father understood the strength in stillness. He also knew when to kneel so others might stand taller." She turned, eyes glimmering like damp bluebells. "Did he?" In the end, kneeling cost him his head. "No," Tyrion said gently. "Lying cost him his head." Truth and pride collided at that scaffold. Pride lost, but truth never dies, my lady. We preach it now across every mile we march. She exhaled fog. "Will it reach Arya?" "It will," Tyrion promised, surprising himself. Wolves have keen ears. Morning dawned brittle and bright, as if skies had exhausted themselves weeping and now brooded in silence. Scouts returned with news. Bolton had drawn the Dreadfort men further east than planned, claiming suspicious tracks but now blocked by fallen oaks. Robb slammed fist against map table, sending inkpot wobbling. Catelyn calmed him. Tyrion quietly consulted Kevin. The elder Lannister suspected nothing nefarious. Roos's caution was legendary, but Tyrion knew Bolton blood ran colder than most. Caution often served as veil for ambition. He filed the worry beside others. They pushed on. By midday, the King's Road climbed into Crownland's oak woods tinted with early russet. Here, tyrants of the Ridge were not kings but cutthroats. Sells words and deserters preying on villages poorly garrisoned since Mace Tyrell recalled his levies south. The column met first ambush near Gallows Oak, where 20 ragged men rushed a grain wagon, slitting 2 oxen before spear lines closed. Slaughter lasted minutes. Great John hacked half the attackers himself. Grey Wind dragged a brigand from saddle and snapped his spine. Yet 1 wolf and 3 lions perished, arrow-shot. Tyrion studied their faces, boys mostly, one old enough to recall the trident under Robert. Peace claimed victims even when war slept. That night Tyrion found Maester Vyman compiling casualty lists. He borrowed parchment, wrote lines for the father above asking judgment gentle, and had each copy nailed to wagon sides for passing small folk to read. Catelyn watched him affix the last sheet by lantern light. "You do not strike me as devout," she observed. "I am not," Tyrion admitted, hammering nail flush. "But peasants prefer gods to lords. If we must feed them promises, let them taste familiar honey." She almost smiled. "You grow more like your brother the longer he is gone. Jaime would hate that." They shared brief laughter, surprising both. 2 leagues beyond Maidenpool, ravens found them. Euron Greyjoy had seized the Shield Islands and burned a Tyrell grain fleet en route to Gulltown. Worse, he had dispatched longships up the Mander to raid villages a day's ride from Highgarden. The Tyrells screamed for retribution, yet King Tommen's gold cloaks lacked ships, and Stannis' new alliance with Lys sapped the treasury further as bribes flowed to keep Selsales loyal. Tywin's message reached Robb by special courier. Hold the trident at all cost. Ironborn may strike the neck to cut off your grain. Expect no Lannisport fleet before winter's end. Robb swore. Great John hurled tankard, denting shield rim. Tyrion read the subtext. The truce would be tested by a third enemy neither side currently fought. Opportunity lived where crises overlapped. Euron's bold, Tyrion said, but not omnipotent. He must supply his reavers, and he craves spectacle. If we feed him bait, we might muzzle him. Robb narrowed eyes. Bait? A prize no kraken can resist, Tyrion answered. Ask him to kidnap me. Catelyn stared. Kevin sputtered. Even Grey Wind paused, sniffing a ham bone. Tyrion shrugged. Euron values chaos. News that Tywin's heir travels north with gold and treaties will lure him. We leak my route, escorted by token guard, across the rills. Meanwhile, the main host harbors in Ramsgate Woods. When Euron lands and sends shore parties, wolves and lions spring the trap, capturing raiders, and perhaps the Crow's Eye himself. He splayed hands. Remove Euron, the Ironborn splinter. The Tyrells stop screaming. The trident stays open. Robb looked to Bolton, returned only hours earlier, claiming failure to find Ford. Bolton studied Tyrion, expression unreadable. We risk deliverance of Tywin's own blood to a pirate, he said at length. If the trap fails, this alliance dies with the dwarf. So we make it not fail, Tyrion said. Roose Bolton commands the ambush. His son's spears know those marshes. Kevin sends Lannister bowmen for flanks. Northmen hold pikes at the river mouth. He met Robb's gaze. Let your enemies taste each other. We simply set the table. Catelyn touched her son's arm. It could work, she whispered. The Ironborn rely on surprise. A surprise turned back on them becomes their undoing. Robb gave nod slow as thaw. We do it, but I ride as well. Uproar followed. He silenced it. My people flee Ironborn axes at Torrens Square and Deepwood Motte. I will not hide while they bleed. Besides, Grey Wind must be there if we corner Euron. A wolf hunts a crow. Decision made, Tyrion drafted a letter in cipher to Varys, knowing the spider's little birds flitted even into Kraken warrens. He salted the message with hints of Tywin's anger at his runaway son, and rumors of a jewel-studded ransom chest larger than a Septon's coffin. Within a day, whispers would spread along every gin joint north of the Mander. 3 nights later, the host split near the ruins of Torrensdown. Tyrion, Robb, Bolton, Kevin, and 600 mixed horse vanished into the pine labyrinth edging the rills. Great John led grain wagons further inland under cover of hillside smoke. Fires bright as beacons announcing presence no enemy could ignore. Scouts left arrow signs for Euron's spies, marking Tyrion's true path through the salt pans. The bait was cast. Waiting began. Bolton's son, Ramsay Snow, had returned with 30 hunters. Gaunt men wearing flayed-man sigils half hidden beneath cloaks the color of damp leaves. Tyrion disliked the bastard's eyes. Pale, amused at private joke involving everyone else's pain. Yet his woodland knowledge proved unerring. He guided the joint force into crescent positions along a tidal creek south of the Lonely Light Inlet, where mudflats trapped longships at half-tide. Pikes were sunk upright beneath shallow pools. Nets soaked in pitch lay coiled for flaming arrows. Kevin commended the preparations grudgingly. On the third dawn, gulls scattered over gray waves, screeching at triangular sails etched with red-eyed krakens. Euron's flagship, Silence, glided ahead like a shark parting foam. Drums pounded. Weathered reavers bellowed oaths older than the faith. Stillness gripped the pine-scented air. Tyrion crouched between Bolton and Kevin behind a brush screen, heart thudding double quick. Robb lay prone atop a rise with Grey Wind, arrow knocked, eyes icy calm. Longships beached, keels grinding sand. Ironborn leapt out, axes gleaming. They found abandoned wagons brimming with barrels labeled coin of Casterly rock. Cheers rose. While pillagers pried lids, Bolton's horn sounded. A shrill note like a hunting hawk. Arrows lashed. Nets flamed. Concealed pikes disappeared into screaming torsos. Northmen roared from Treeline, banners streaming. Lannister bowmen stepped from ditches, loosing shafts in deadly cadence. Euron Greyjoy strode through chaos wearing rust-red scale and grin wide as a hurricane's eye. He parried a spear thrust, laughed, and blew an ivory horn whose sound curdled blood. Then grey wind burst from brush, fangs bared. The dire wolf barreled into a knot of Ironborn, sending men flying like bowling pins. Robb followed, long sword ringing against splitting shields. Kevin led a charge of heavy horse, trampling broken ranks. Ramsay Snow's hunters emerged, curved blades flashing as they hamstrung reavers grabbing at severed nets. Tyrion advanced behind Bolton's guard, dagger drawn mostly for courage. Amid smoke and brine he glimpsed Euron, one eye black patch, the other blue as arcane fire, lock blades with Robb. Steel shrieked. Euron mocked as though fencing for sport. Robb fought silent, wolf beside him. Clash lasted breaths only. Grey wind lunged, tearing chain from Euron's pauldron. The Kraken captain stumbled, parried upward, but Robb's riposte drove into his thigh. Blood spurted. Euron laughed, caught Robb's hilt, wrenched free, and withdrew toward shoreline, blowing his horn again. Surviving reavers rallied, formed shield wall, retreated crabwise to ships now stuck in outgoing tide. Flint arrows from northern bowmen arced overhead, igniting tar-soaked nets draped across hulls. Flames licked rigging, oarsmen screamed. Euron limped but reached silence, vaulting rail with impossible agility. He waved a black banner. Bolts fired from scorpions mounted on deck. One bolt skewered a Stark spearman 6 feet from Tyrion. The dwarf ducked instinctively, rolled, scuttled behind wagon. Smoke thickened. Fire rose. Robb signaled horn sequence. Stand down. No need to follow Kraken into open water. They had won. Ironborn survivors flung weapons aside, kneeling amid tide pools. Ramsay's hunters moved in, thongs unfurling. Bolton growled orders. Prisoners bound but uncut. The king will decide. Ramsay smirked, sheathing knives sullenly. Kevin dismounted near Tyrion. You baited the hook well. Tyrion wiped soot from brow. Hooks rarely catch monsters intact.
Euron escapes.
Kevin pointed to burning masts, silence pulling free but rigging aflame. He sails wounded, and without shock these Ironborn cannot raid far. Robb approached, armor dented, gray wind muzzle blood slick. Many lost yet fewer than feared, the king said. He clasped Tyrion's forearm. Today lion and wolf hunted together. Cheers began, swelling as men realized victory's scale. Prisoners counted near 80. For longships burned, 2 captured. The bait chest of fake gold still sat unopened and unmarred. Tyrion could not resist. He pried a lid and revealed not coin but river stones painted yellow. He displayed one to Kevin. They laughed until tears carved soot trails on cheeks. News of Crow's Eye's defeat spread across Westeros faster than raven flights. At Highgarden, Mace Tyrell declared feast of thanks and withheld condemnation of the peace. In Old Town, Hightower banners signaled renewed shipbuilding, not for war, but for escorting grain north come spring. In King's Landing, Cersei shattered a mirror. Shards glittered like tears. Stannis, upon Dragonstone, scowled and ordered Lysine masters to double galley output. He had counted on Ironborn distraction. Meanwhile, Tywin dispatched ravens of begrudging praise, warning the real war still loomed on Blackwater's horizon. To which Robb replied with single sentence: "The North stands ready beside the Crown so long as the Crown stands ready beside the North." Diplomatic, unyielding, winter closed its fist. Snow fell daily, dusting trident reeds, frosting the carts. Yet grain wagons reached White Harbor 2 weeks before the longest night. Sansa stepped onto familiar quay lined with Manderley guards singing of the Wolf Maid's return. Wyman Manderley bowed, chin folds quivering with emotion. He offered Sansa the keys to Old New Keep to await spring. Instead, she chose modest chambers by the sea, from whose windows she could watch ships braving storms to feed small folk. Tyrion remained with Robb, Bolton, and Kevin at Moat Cailin, overseeing repairs to the ruined fortress sealing the Neck. Tarred logs replaced shattered palisades, and every builder, from Mormont mason to Lannister engineer, worked under shared oath: hold the causeway open or starve together. Nights in the Neck were cold and wet. Tents sagged. Cooks stretched barley with eel meat. Yet camaraderie grew like moss on wet stone. Umber brawled with Lannister sergeants one evening, then drank with them the next.
Harsh jest tempered suspicion. Shared misery forged grudging affection.
Bolton, curiously, grew quieter. He proposed nightly watches and tallied grain meticulously, but seldom smiled. Ramsay's men patrolled swamps, but rumors circulated. Missing Ironborn prisoners. Escaped, some said. Tyrion cornered Bolton one dusk, asking after them. Roosa's pale eyes showed no glint. Ironborn die easiest in their element, water. Likely fled into bog and sank. Tyrion swallowed suspicion like bitter ale. He had no proof, only dread. A raven came from the Vale. Lisa Arryn dead, skull dashed on courtyard stones. Word held her own singers, and a Sellsword knight vied for blame. Littlefinger seized regency for young Lord Robert. Robb saw a crack in southern unity. Kevin sent word to Tywin suggesting quick envoys to secure airy grain shipments. Tywin agreed. So another subtle thread bound lion and wolf. Arya Stark arrived on the winter solstice. She rode a shaggy Garen stolen, borrowed, she claimed, from a kindly shepherd. Cloaked in ragged furs, hair hacked short, face smudged with soot, she eluded sentries, slipping into camp as night watch changed. Gray wind scented her first, bounding from Robb's tent toward shadows near supply pens. Guards scrambled, but the direwolf's joyous yelps betrayed recognition. Robb emerged wielding sword, then froze as his sister threw arms about the beast's neck. Moments later the king wept openly, kneeling as Arya crashed into his embrace. Tyrion found them thus, hearing commotion. He kept distance, witnessing reunion lit by flickering braziers. Arya pulled away, eyes scanning faces until they found him. She strode forward, boots squelching. "You're shorter than I remember," she said. "And you're taller," Tyrion replied, bowing. "But equally fierce, I see." She considered, then nodded sharp. "Mother and Sansa safe?" "Safer each day." She eyed Bolton and Ramsay lurking beyond firelight, distrust humming. Tyrion whispered, "Beware that one," jerking chin at Ramsay. "He thrives on shadows." Arya smirked. "So do I." Bolton offered quarters. Robb insisted Arya share his. Tyrion returned to ledger work, yet sleep never came. Memory of Arya's blade glint haunted him. Rescued girls, but unleashed wolf with sharper teeth. Still, family complete strengthened Robb's claim to northern hearts. Tywin would respect the optics, perhaps even fear them. Spring thaw remained months away, yet already letters sketched post-war order. River tariffs adjusted, joint courts for border crimes, betrothal rumors swirling, Edmure to a Westerling cousin, perhaps even proposal of Shireen Baratheon to Rickon Stark to placate Stannis. Tyrion navigated each negotiation like playing three-dimensional Syvas atop unstable boards. He loved it. Kevin teased that his nephew had found kingdom more suited than Casterly Rock. Kingdom of loopholes. One dawn, a hooded messenger arrived bearing sigil of 3 interlocked spirals, a cryptic sign Stannis used for clandestine correspondence. The parchment inside, sealed with plain wax, offered pact. Stannis would recognize Tommen if granted Stormlands and part of Reach as sovereign buffer, plus marriage of Shireen to a northern heir of his choosing. He would, however, require Lannister gold to fund faith-approved crusade against rumored others beyond the wall. Tyrion laughed bitterly. Wars ended only to birth new wars. Still, an alliance with Stannis could finalize peace. He shared letter with Robb. Northern King frowned. "The wall concerns me more than Reach lands," he said. "Old Nan's tales speak of shadows beyond Frostfangs. If Stannis marches against them, we might lend men." Tyrion scribbled ideas: joint expedition, supply grants, perhaps sending Jon Snow, now Lord of Castle Black by acclamation of brothers, to act as liaison. The world closed yet opened simultaneously. But cracks appeared. Bolton requested leave to return to Dreadfort, citing supply deficits. Robb hesitated. Tyrion counseled caution. Yet Bolton had served well in ambush. Denying him risked alienating his houses. Robb allowed departure with 200 men, but insisted Ramsay stay as royal warden of Moat Cailin, hostaged by proxy. Bolton agreed, though smile never reached eyes. Before leaving, he met Tyrion briefly. "You see threats in every kindness," Bolton murmured. "Remember, Lord Tyrion, wolves respect strength, not suspicion. If you fear me, leash your direwolf accordingly." Tyrion retorted, "Direwolves know when to bare fangs, Lord Bolton. Pray they never sense carrion near their pups." Bolton bowed and rode north. Snowflakes drifted behind him, erasing hoofprints swiftly. Weeks slid by in slow work, reinforcing causeway, rationing salt pork, training mixed patrols. Tyrion and Arya played Syvas nightly. She favored surprise dragon moves, toppling his elephants unexpectedly. He taught her to anticipate lateral threats. She taught him to expect knife thrown beneath board. Robb watched, amused, calling the matches mock councils of war. Morrigan bards composed songs of the imp and the wolf girl, though none dared sing them within Ramsay's earshot. At last, in month of the Maiden's Tears, ravens announced Tywin's southward march. He brought 10,000 western spears to King's Landing, snarling at rumors of Tyrell agitation. Cersei invited Robb to capital to seal pact publicly at Great September, promising full pardon, titles restored, and wedding of Edmure to a Lannister cousin. Robb prepared retinue. Tyrion would accompany. Kevan returned home after escorting. The future felt tangible, like frost-stiff linen ready for ironing. Yet frost cracks when bent too fast. On eve of departure, Ramsay vanished. 2 guards lay gutted, stables burnt, a northern hostelry raided for horses. He fled north with 30 of his bastard boys, taking 7 Ironborn prisoners and 3 camp follower girls. A note pinned by flayed hand to gate read, "Bastards cut loose when fathers forget leashes." Panic rippled. Robb ordered pursuit. Great John and Galbart galloped into night, but frozen bog tracks swallowed clues. Bolton's treachery whispered through tents. Some urged branding entire house traitor again. Others argued Ramsay alone monstrous. Arya wanted to hunt him personally. Tyrion dissuaded her. Barely. Kevan pressed for continuing journey south. Abandoning peace now would gift victory to chaos. Robb's council raged until dawn, when Raven arrived from Dreadfort bearing Roos's seal. "Ramsay will answer for crimes. Allow me to meet justice. I ride to track him. We shall join you at Greywater Watch once he is found." Many doubted sincerity. Still, war-exhausted lords clung to hope that father would slay son. Robb resumed plans, leaving a garrison at Moat Cailin with Arya, who grudgingly accepted command of scouts to guard Causeway. Tyrion accompanied King. Kevan too. Sansa would sail from White Harbor to King's Landing under Manderley protection. The southern ride proved grueling. Roads half-frozen, river fords swollen. Yet along each village small folk greeted procession with mixture of awe and relief. Lion and wolf side by side foretold respite. At Harrenhal ruins repaired by Tywin's engineers, they rested a night. Tyrion explored blackened halls where wildfire once consumed Lannister garrison. He felt ghosts. His own among them had politics gone differently. He left offering of coins to Harren the Black's shattered sepulchre, whispering, "Peace may yet free you." They reached the Blackwater on first clear dawn of spring thaw. Sun glimmered off bay dotted with Tyrell cogs and Lannisport war galleys. King's Landing skyline shimmered through silver haze, a promise of politics more treacherous than any battlefield. Robb halted on ridge above Mudgate, gazing down. Tyrion noted tension. Childhood memories of father's death overshadowed by new purpose. He urged his horse alongside. "Remember," he said softly, "this city devours pride. Feed it patience instead." Robb nodded. "And feed it wolves if patience fails." Gates opened. Procession entered. Crowds lined streets, many gawking at dire wolf pacing carriage. Tyrell rosebearers tossed petals. Traders cheered potential reopen of northern furs. But suspicion chimed from alleys. Whispers of Tully rebels in city. Whispers of Red Priestess preaching blackened sun prophecy. Whispers of Sparrow mobs chanting against Lannister debts. Peace had many enemies. Within Red Keep's throne room, Tywin awaited clad in ceremonial crimson, crown of the hand gleaming. Tommen sat throne, flanked by Cersei and Margaery Tyrell. Robb advanced, cloak trimmed in gray fox, gray wind prowling steps behind. Silence pressed like weight of cathedral roof. Then Tommen spoke, voice quavering but clear. "We welcome King Robb Stark to King's Landing, to treat of peace and friendship." Robb knelt halfway, not fully, a compromise rehearsed. Tommen descended 2 steps, offered hand. Robb accepted, rising. Applause, muted at first, then swelling as courtiers gauged direction of wind. Tyrion watched Cersei's painted smile crack, Margaery's blossom widen. Tywin's eyes met his sharp but acknowledging. For a heartbeat the world balanced, a realm torn bridged by handshake. By evening, feast hammered illusions into wine-glazed memory. Tables groaned with trout and boar, honeyed locusts, Dornish peppers. Bards sang of Torrhen Stark kneeling to Aegon. But verse now ended with lions roaring alongside wolves against foreign storms. Robb toasted Tommen. Tommen toasted Robb. Tyrion traded jests with Queen Margaery, soothing tension. Cersei excused herself early, citing headache. After midnight, Kevin found Tyrion on balcony overlooking wildfire-blackened waters. "We stand upon cliff," Uncle said. "One gust may send us to breakers." Tyrion sipped arbor gold. "Cliffs keep vantage. I will build railings." Kevin smiled weary. "Take this." He handed scroll. Bolton's seal, message intercepted. Tyrion unrolled. Words chilled marrow. Crow's eye held. Flensing complete. Bastard of Bolton negotiates with Frey Lannister sympathizers to restore Winterfell under Dreadfort banner. Wolves south. Lions south. North right. Wait green light. Tyrion cursed. Kevin said, intercepted by chance at Maidenpool. Roose rides south, supposedly trailing Ramsay, yet letter sent after departure. There is conspiracy. Tyrion paced. If Roose betrays, he will strike when Robb isolated. Here, amid lions. Use wolves in north to claim crown for himself. We must warn. But whom? Robb trusts Bolton still. Tywin distrusts north but needs peace. Accusing without proof ignites war again. Tyrion stared into night where Blackwater currents glimmered. Proof we shall find. Bolton arrives in days. We intercept at Rose Road Fork with joint company. Search his retinue. If guilt lies, we expose publicly at Great September. No room for denials. Kevin agreed. Yet Tyrion's mind whirred faster than crossbow windlass. Bolton slipping nets this long would not carry incriminating parchment openly. He would bury treachery in whispers, poisons, daggers in dark. That dagger struck sooner than dawn. Tyrion lay in guest chambers when commotion erupted. He rushed to corridor, finding guards hauling limp figure. Lord Antario Jast, crown emissary who had championed northern grain subsidies, now pale, throat slit ear to ear. On corpse chest lay scrap of skin flayed into hand shape, pinned with northern arrow. Message clear. Wolves cannot share halls with lions. Panic soared. Whispers flew. Bolton sabotage. Radical Northmen in city. False flag Lannister scheme. Peace cracked audible. Robb demanded investigation. Tywin appointed inquiry. Cersei blamed Stark partisans. Tyrells blamed Cersei. Tyrion convened with Varys in dark passage. The eunuch offered no culprits, only riddles. When masks fall, faces underneath often uglier than imagined. Some would rather realm burn than share power. Tyrion snapped, "Give me names." "A name is wind if dagger unseen," Varys sighed. "Find the blade. Name will follow." Robb urged immediate departure back north. Tywin insisted treaty signing first, else rumors triumph. Bolton's still en route. Political gridlock thickened like mud. Marjorie proposed spectacle. Tourney of reconciliation, pitting mixed teams to foster camaraderie. Tommen thrilled. Cersei acquiesced grudgingly. Robb consented under guard. Tyrion sensed disaster but saw no alternative. Delaying signings worsened suspicion. Tourney of the Hand opened 7 days hence on custom lists along River Gate. Bright banners fluttered. Crowds hungry for distraction thronged. 7 teams of 3 knights each competed. Lion, Wolf, Rose, Stag, Falcon, Kraken, comprising reformed Ironborn prisoners, and Dragon, a novelty team of Associ Sellswords wearing black. Tyrion noted Bolton colors absent. They had not yet arrived, just commenced. Lannister Ser Talbot Seri unhorsed Northman Ser Wendell Manderley but helped him stand. Crowd cheered, symbol of unity. Rose Knight Ser Garland Tyrell unseated Dragon Captain, then saluted Robb. Spirits soared. Mid-afternoon, melee began. Each team fielding axes, maces padded for show. During second pass, a Dragon Sellsword feigned stumble, loosing belt knife real steel. He lunged at Tommen's dais. Chaos exploded. Grey wind howled. Stark guards tackled Boy King from seat. Tyrion flung wine cup. Ser Garland intercepted Killer, but second blade flashed from stands. Arrow aimed at Robb. Bolt missed, grazing pauldron. Third assailant burst toward Marjorie, screaming Queenslayer. Crowd panicked. Stands collapsed. Dust cloud. Within minutes, Kingsguard cut down assassins. Associ tongues unknown. Their armor bore sigil of 3-headed dragon breathing green flame. No house in Westeros. Under breastplates, tattoos of fiery heart pierced by stag's antlers. Melisandre's cult? Stannis infiltration? Conspiracy thickened. Tourney ended in blood, not laurels. Peace teetered. Tywin ordered city gates shut. Robb sequestered in Tower of Hand. Cersei weaponized panic to rally gold cloaks. Spymaster Small Council convened day and night. Tyrion argued assassins aimed to sabotage treaty. Tommen clung to kittens presented by Marjorie, tear-streaked. 2 days later, Bolton arrived with small retinue. Flag of truce white over flayed man. Roose claimed he tracked Ramsay to Maidenpool but lost trail. He expressed horror at city events, offered Dreadfort archers for security. Tyrion confronted him with intercepted letter. Bolton denied, insisted forgery by enemies seeking rift. Tywin demanded cooperation. Roose submitted to search. Nothing found. Suspicion remained but proof elusive. Cersei saw moment. She convened court, unveiling evidence, linking assassins to northern splinter cells. Scrolls produced boar wax direwolves, clearly counterfeit but masses accepted. She demanded Robb surrender Grey Wind and certain northern lords for questioning. Robb refused. Blades nearly drawn in throne room until Tyrion shouted above din, invoking Tommen's edict of hospitality. He proposed impartial tribunal at Old Town under neutral Hightower referees. Tempers cooled marginally, but night carried darker blow. Sansa's ship, the Lady Lyanna, sighted burning off Cape Wrath. Raven reported wreckage, survivors unknown. Kraken sails seen. Tyrell fleet searched but found only flotsam. Queen Marjorie wept with Sansa's mother. Catelyn collapsed upon hearing. Robb's grief erupted into rage. Peace shattered. He ordered Grey Wind readied, demanded leave to hunt Euron anew. Tywin refused safe conduct, citing security. Cersei smirked behind Goblet. Tyrion felt world tumble. He retreated to Solar, staring at map pins now meaningless. He had built castle of sand. Tide of treachery hammered foundations from every side. Yet dawn brought miracle. A fishing cog limped up Blackwater towing longboat laden with survivors. Sansa among them, drenched, shivering but alive. Ironborn attackers had boarded, seeking royal hostage. Manderley guards fought. Storm wrecked ships. Whales drove wreckage toward coast. Cersei's narrative crumbled. Crowd hailed gods for deliverance. Robb's temper sheathed. Tywin privately thanked Imp for not losing the most valuable chip we possess. Peace regained breathing room, but only just. Tyrion visited Sansa in Maegor's Holdfast infirmary. She gripped his hand. "Does the truce still live?" she whispered. "Like this candle," he replied, pointing to trembling flame beside bed. "One breath could quench, one breath could bolster. Then breathe," she said. "The North needs dawn," he promised. In small council urgent, Tyrion unveiled strategy. Marry Sansa to Willis Tyrell, binding Reach to North, isolating Bolton and Ironborn. Send joint Stark Lannister force to assist Night's Watch, proving unity. Grant Roose Warden of the Neck to keep him invested but distant from North Heart. Proclaim Tommen and Robb as twin protectors of realm in shared decree, symbolic though crowns separate. Tywin saw brilliance. Cersei seethed at Tyrell ascendance. Marjorie acquiesced. Robb accepted if Sansa consented. She did, seeking peace in memory of Ned. Bolton objected lightly, but acquiesced. Too many eyes upon him. Yet Ramsay still at large. The great September wedding shone like promise. Candles by thousands, roses scattered, wolf and rose banners braided above altar. Tyrion stood witness between Kevin and Brynden. Sansa, in gown of winterweave silver with Reach green accents, spoke vows to crippled Willis, a gentle scholar of horses. Their joined hands symbolized new age. When Septon pronounced blessing, bells pealed. Crowds cheered. Tyrion exhaled. 500,000 hearts beat as one, if only for a breath. That night, snowflakes drifted over city, rare for King's Landing. Tyrion strolled garden terraces, savoring hush. He found Roose Bolton gazing at frozen fountain, face upturned to flakes. "Winter south of Neck," Bolton murmured. "Ominous." "Or cleansing," Tyrion said. Bolton turned, expression inscrutable. "Beware cleansing fires, Lord Tyrion. They burn more than filth. Better ash than rot." Bolton's eyes glinted. "Some seeds sprout best in rot." He left. Tyrion shivered, not from cold. He sensed cycle unbroken. Men used peace to sharpen daggers. Yet he also knew Sansa's smile, Willis's kindness, Robb's handshake with Tommen. Real things, seeds in soil of compromise. He retired late, Quill ready to draft new taxes for joint navy restoring Westerosi pride. In margins he doodled direwolf and lion sleeping nose to tail. Candle dwindled. Exhaustion claimed him. Before sleep, he whispered to darkness, "Let tomorrow be quieter than today." For once, gods listened. Dawn broke soft. Gulls cried. City woke to smell of fresh bread, not smoke. Peace, fragile as snowflake on gauntlet, held. For now.